JJK Chapter 253 is out, and there is quite a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to narrative aspects such as Sukuna being too strong and a lot of people being upset with that, and also power scaling aspects such as, again, Sukuna being too strong and also perhaps people ranking Maki too high or even ranking her too low. With, of course, the narrative developments that came from this chapter. It was a great chapter, to be honest, but there is quite a lot to actually dissect and break down, so let's do that. Be sure to leave a like, hit up a ton, thank you, and of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. Less than 10% of people actually watch my videos are subscribed, so if you love JJK, I promise you, you will not regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to these special members of the channel, it is always much appreciated. So, let's start off with the beginning of the chapter where they're actually talking about the strongest grade one. So we have a lot of perspectives on this, and it's quite hilarious because it's exactly like the scene where they ask, oh, who's the strongest? And everyone says, it's Gojo, without question. That's what Gojo is, or what is Gojo to you? And everyone says, he's the strongest. So I guess the question's kind of reversed, not the exact question, but the montage of sorcerers actually saying Kusakabe, it felt exactly like that. So of course, we have Mei saying, huh? The strongest grade one, it's Kusakabe. And of course, Naname says, depending on the situation, it would be Kusakabe. At least I think so. And Gojo actually says something interesting. He says, it's Kusakabe, am I right? It would be a different story if we included the big three clans, wouldn't it? But, which of course makes sense that someone like Naobito would probably destroy someone like Kusakabe, at least pre-time skip. Obviously, Kusakabe has gotten so much stronger post-time skip that he's got special grade level reinforcement and output, which yes, it sounds unbelievable, but it is a truth. However he got that strong, we still don't know what happened over the time skip for everyone to have gone this strong. You know, Yuta said they cheated. There's a lot of theories around that, such as the Kappa using his simple domain to actually create a hyperbolic time chamber and have people train maybe months or even years within the span of just a couple days. But everyone seems to think, at least not including the big three clans, it's probably Kusakabe. He is the strongest grade one, but Kusakabe, he says anyone but me or Usami. And it's pretty interesting because this might be Mei's real name, which we just got dropped in this chapter. As you don't actually know what Mei's name is, it was actually said that Mei isn't her real name, it's just an alias. And obviously this goes into the whole theory of Mei actually being from the Gojo clan for several reasons, such as her and Uyui being confirmed to be biological brother and sister, both of them having very similar hair to Gojo, both of them not having a last name and only going by aliases, and of course Uyui having a spatial curse technique, which is literally teleportation, which again, it's space control, it's tied to the Gojo clan, so it's very likely Uyui is from the Gojo clan, as well as Mei knowing about Mahoraga, knowing about the Zenin secret treasure. So it's likely that unless this is someone, again, we don't know, Mei's real name may have just been dropped, which is Usami, and if the theories are true, then her full name should be Usami Gojo, which is pretty cool. Hopefully that is true. And then after the flashback ends, we actually get the chapter with Maki battling with Sukuna, and it's a pretty cool fight, I can't lie. It's pretty insane because Sukuna actually blocks a swing of the Soul Cutter Katana, which this has brought a lot of power scaling questions into contention, because it was actually said that the Soul Splitter Katana ignores any hardness and durability or any toughness, no matter what it's cutting, yet Sukuna was actually able to block it with his bare hands. Now, it's not actually clear since we can't exactly see, since Sukuna's hand is kind of blocking the view of where he actually blocked it with his two hands, but if Sukuna actually did block it with, you know, bare-handed, that does actually bring into question the narrator's own statements that said it can bypass any durability or any toughness, no matter who it is. But it's actually possible that Sukuna may have used Cleaviness Mantle, kind of like a shorthand version where we see him actually apply it around the palm of his hand, and that's how he's actually able to grip the Soul Splitter Katana many times. It could be possible that he's applying it on the front of his arms instead of the palms, and he's kind of using it as a shield. That could be a possibility. I'm only saying that because otherwise it doesn't make sense, and the narrator's own statement is incorrect. But Sukuna pushes Maki back, and Sukuna tosses a whole car at her, which is pretty insane. It reminds me when Yuta tossed a car at Yuji, and when Yuji actually tossed a car on the inverse sky during Shibuya. This of course sends Maki flying back, which he actually does block, similar to how Toji actually blocks the red when he was fighting Gojo. And from just an incredible feat from Sukuna, he is somehow already in the building and already behind her as he gets ready to actually Cleaviness Mantle and kill her right then and there. But of course, Ino comes in for the clutch and actually saves Maki's life. So instead of actually using the Cleaviness Mantle which he had charged on Maki, he switches it and fires this charged Cleaviness Mantle at Ino instead, because Ino was about to fire his Auspicious Beast on Sukuna. And Ino, of course, like a champion, he actually tanks it. Again, it doesn't seem like he's using a simple domain to negate the damage. We don't know, maybe he is. But after tanking the Dismantle, which is not even that far away, mind you, it seems to be pretty close, he eats a kick from Sukuna, which sends him flying away, and it doesn't seem like he's dead. You know, he gets sent out of the building, but pretty incredible. And Sukuna actually questions, earlier, weren't you with that curse tool? Of course, he's referring to the curse tool that Naname had, which is foreshadowing what Kusakabe is about to do, since he's right above him in the building. And it kind of reminds me of, if you remember from the Spider-Man movie when the Green Goblin is slamming Peter down those buildings, it kind of reminds me of that. So Kusakabe actually swings and hits Sukuna with the ratio technique, but it Sukuna doesn't do anything. So it's pretty cool actually to see Ino and Kusakabe actually jump in and try and help Maki out, and they actually did save Maki's life, but as we'll see later on in the chapter, it didn't actually do too much because Sukuna proceeds to dominate quite badly. So Maki jumps into the fight and she actually body slams Sukuna, sending him flying. And Maki actually thinks even if Yuta is saved, if this battle drags on like this, other problems will come. Obviously she's referring to Sukuna getting his output back, his reverse curse technique output back, and mainly his domain expansion. If he gets that back, it's over, and she thinks I'll end it right here. But then we have the narrator saying, after the death of Satoru Gojo, Hajime Kashima, Hiromi Higuruma, and Yuta Okotsu, each one of them demonstrated their exceptional brilliance in Jujutsu, facing Sukuna with a feast. However, the one who made Sukuna crave flesh was Maki Zeni, who had completely discarded Jujutsu to be blessed by heavenly restriction. And the translator's note says that Sukuna is specifically saying shokushi, which just means crave flesh, and apparently it's something they actually use in Japan when they're referring to food. Now, what's about to happen next was beyond insane, I'm not gonna lie, like this was just stunning. And we finally get a glimpse of Sukuna actually going serious, and it's just crazy. The narrator says, the fact left the king of curses thrilled, and we just see Sukuna fully silhouetted as his eyes, they just widen and he looks so intense as Maki kicks blocks at him, and while he's fully silhouetted, he just vanishes from our sight, and of course, he has completely blitzed Maki to the point that Maki's even surprised at the sudden change of Sukuna, as he actually palms her face with his hand, and he actually cleaves her cheek off. As Sukuna thinks to himself, she's not like this brat, she shaved off everything away, she's the void, which is pretty interesting. That implies, you know, maybe the reason why Yuji's physically strong is because he actually had some sort of restriction placed on him, which is always a big question, you know, why is Yuji so physically strong? We still don't have that question, so we know he's not Sukuna finger since all the things are accounted for. So why is Yuji so blessed with such immense physical strength, so much so that he is actually confirmed to be far stronger than even pre-awakened Maki, even if Yuji were to not have cursed energy? That's how powerful he is physically. But why is that the case? So this is kind of giving a hint at it. Maybe instead of having all of his cursed energy and cursed technique gone in a binding vow, perhaps Kenjaku actually forced a binding vow to take away his cursed technique, and instead of having a cursed technique, he was just physically stronger. But of course, because it wasn't the full binding vow, maybe Yuji was a failed experiment at trying to recreate Toji. Yuji was able to still keep cursed energy, and it's why he's not as strong as Toji or Maki. That's just the theory, I have no idea, and it does sort of hint that there's a connection between Yuji and heavily restricted users such as Maki and Toji. But regardless, Sukuna becomes eccentric, he just goes insane, and as he's laughing maniacally, he says, after all, if Jujutsu is just skin and flesh. And Maki, again, we can see her cheeks being cut. She looks, I don't want to say scared, but it might even be fear, I can't lie. Like the face that she has when Sukuna does this and Sukuna's laughing and screaming all this, it's pretty intense on her part. And Sukuna proceeds to say, then this body is really made of bones and marrow, isn't it? Referring to Maki. Can you understand? Your very existence rejects that of Jujutsu sorcerers. And you can clearly see Sukuna's ramped up. He's gotten a lot stronger, so his output is coming back and he's really getting in the zone for what's about to happen next. And he continues to say, which is more worthy to be honed as a state of power, Jujutsu or the body? This battle will decide. And Maki's looking very intense as Sukuna's pounding on her. As she thinks, did he halt his recovery with the reverse curse technique? Sukuna grabs a hold of Maki's weapon and says, for the first time, and we can see Sukuna is intense and he is smiling this whole time. He is diabolical. He cocks back his fist and we can see it's charged with Jujutsu energy. Finally, someone is assigning me a duty as he hits a black flash, and we get it at 3 different angles. We see it just destroy Maki and actually take her out of the battle completely. So finally, we get to see Sukuna, the king of curses, hit a black flash. And I think this is the first time that Sukuna's actually been excited this entire time. And it's not that Maki's stronger than Gojo. She is nowhere near Gojo's level, like not even remotely close. But it's more so Sukuna actually finding meaning and reason in this fight for everything he just said before. As he actually says, finally, someone is assigning me of a duty. And this reminds me of when he was actually talking to Yuji and he says, good for you, you know, you actually have a role. I don't want to say he sounded jealous because in that moment it sounded like he was mocking him, but it does harken back to that, doesn't it? And it even goes back to what Sukuna was saying while he was spaced out when he was fighting Yuji, saying, yeah, I just do what I want. There's not really a reason why I do what I want. I just have fun. I just eat when I want to. I fight when I want to. I play with people that I find interesting until I stop finding them interesting. But it seems like for the first time, he actually feels like he has a duty. He has a role here. He literally says for the first time, someone is assigning me a duty. So again, he's probably feeling something that he has not felt from any other fighter for the thematic reasons of this fight, because this is the body versus Jujutsu, which is greater, which is worthy to be honed as a state of power. So it actually ended up being Maki who excited Sukuna this much to actually push him to use a black flash, something not even Gojo was able to excite him this much. I mean, Gojo was taunting Sukuna the whole time and he was not able to get this out of Sukuna. And again, it is not that Maki is stronger stronger than Gojo, she's not close. It's simply the clash of ideologies that drove Sukuna to be this zoned in. It was incredible seeing Sukuna hit this black flash, and of course, Kusakabe sees this happen. He says, what? You gotta be kidding me. Am I the last one standing? Itadori? Choso? Mei will show up, won't she? In case there's no chance of winning, I could've just run away. Although since I'm here, there's no choice but continue this, right? As we see, Sukuna looks menacing as he turns around to look at Kusakabe. Continue this. Me and Sukuna, is this for real? And I won't lie, these are giving me heavy Kusakabe death flag. So we saw earlier on, he said, oh, Higuruma, I'll protect you even if it costs my life. And earlier on, we see Ino was actually saying, oh, you're the only one who can actually keep up with these monsters. At least he was saying in his mind. And in the beginning of the chapter, we were seeing Kusakabe get hyped up as the strongest grade 1. And this reminds me of Higuruma, of Kashimo, and of Yuta, where they get hyped up tremendously, and Maki as well, only to be absolutely destroyed by Sukuna later on. It seems like Sukuna, after hitting the black flash, his output should have recovered quite a lot. Remember, when Gojo actually hit a black flash, he actually started to get his output increase and his voltage actually ramped up as he was getting more and more into the zone. So Sukuna, since he should be getting closer to the core of cursed energy and should be getting far more focused, his output should have increased after that black flash, and he should actually be getting at least some of his power back. But I'm not gonna lie, it was quite a crazy chapter. There's nothing out of the ordinary. I wasn't really expecting Maki to beat Sukuna one-on-one, and as I've been saying for the past 4 months since we actually saw Higuruma step into the fight, I truly don't believe the main cast is winning here now. I just really don't think they are. But I'm not saying Sukuna's gonna win the whole story and it's gonna be Sukuna Kaisen. Definitely not. I actually think it's more akin to, let's say, Luffy versus Kaido, how he lost a lot of times and he kept getting back up, or in Attack on Titan during the ending, how they actually lost to Eren in the first round. They had to regroup and then go back to fight him. I think it's gonna be something like this, where Sukuna's clearly, he's beating the brakes off of everyone here. And it seems like Yuta's not dead, it seems like Maki's not dead, but they've all been defeated, and of course Yuji's far away somewhere. I think everyone's gonna lose and Sukuna's gonna win, but they'll all regroup and then try and actually fight Sukuna for a second final clash. That's the direction I think this is going, and I'm seeing a lot of people, and this is more so not just from this chapter, but mainly the last one, actually being upset about Sukuna, how, oh, he's just too strong, he keeps winning. It's basically just Sukuna Kaisen, Gege is just wanking Sukuna over and over. I hate this. And in some aspects, I understand the frustration of just seeing Sukuna steamroll everyone, since a lot of people had a lot of expectations of the main cast being Sukuna, even though it was never guaranteed, and I truly do believe that Sukuna was going to win at least this first round, so for me it's not surprising. But there are quite a lot of criticisms thrown at not just Sukuna, but also Gege for, you know, Sukuna going crazy and it being Sukuna Kaisen. And if you've been following me on Twitter, you've definitely seen how I've actually been, to be honest, defending this, because in my own opinion, it's not that surprising that Sukuna is destroying everyone, since he is the strongest in history. I mean, the very moment Gojo lost and we saw Sukuna transform, even after knowing he was nerfed, I knew that none of the main cast stood a chance, because this is the strongest sorcerer in history. None of this should be surprising. None of them stand a chance against Sukuna. Again, it doesn't mean that Sukuna is going to win, but it also doesn't mean that the main cast have to win for the first time. It's not like it's over just because Sukuna's won here. If anything, I truly think it's building up the tension and also the stakes of the story, seeing him kill so many characters such as Kashimo, such as Higuruma, defeating characters such as Yuta, such as Yuji, such as Maki, with there being no one left to fight him, and of course Akari's being stalled out by Urume, who's still not even fought Sukuna, so, you know, he's doing whatever he's doing in the background, gambling it all away, I guess. But at the same time, I can at least see the frustration of reading the story right now and just seeing Sukuna steamroll all of your favorite characters. I mean, this guy has been on an absolute tear since Gojo has died, annihilating everyone one after the other, and a lot of people are saying it's boring. And as much as I can say, you know, in the story it makes sense that Sukuna is destroying them, in the story it makes sense that Sukuna is this powerful, it actually makes sense that Sukuna is going to win, and he's supposed to win because for this narrative reason or for this explanation. But at the end of the day, if people are finding it boring or if people aren't enjoying it, you can't really fault people for feeling this way. I mean, it's just how you feel at the end of the day, isn't it? I will touch upon this in greater depth and detail in my next video, so be on the lookout for that, about if Sukuna Kaisen is rooting JJK. Now, as for where I think this is all going next, again, I do think Kusakabe is gonna die. Gege actually did say that he really likes Kusakabe as a character, but that's not stopped him from killing people in the past. I mean, he killed Naname. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said Naname was his favorite, or at least one of his favorite characters, and he killed him off in that brutal way in the past. So yeah, it's not like that's gonna save Kusakabe from death. And of course, just a reminder, there is a break next week, so we won't be getting JJK until 2 weeks later. I do imagine that we'll probably get other characters jump in, such as Yuji and Choso, since Yuji should have healed by now, and there has been quite a lot of time, you know, since the Maki fire has been going on, so he might jump in, but of course it might all be thrown onto Kusakabe's shoulders in the end, and he may even sacrifice himself to save Yuji. I do think there's going to be a Kusakabe moment. He has no curse technique, he has no special ability. It doesn't even seem like he has Ino's curse tool anymore, since all he's got is his sword in his hand, so I really don't know what Kusakabe is gonna do besides simple domain. I mean, it's possible that Sukuna actually gets his domain expansion back, and Kusakabe activates the new shadow style, and he basically tanks Malevolent Shrine, at least for a couple seconds, because then it would be stripped away. I mean, if Gojo's simple domain is not stopping Malevolent Shrine, there is no chance in hell that Kusakabe's simple domain is stopping it. But hey, maybe Kusakabe's simple domain is a lot better than Gojo's because he's the simple domain expert, you know? He's got no curse technique to rely on, so he's probably just refined his simple domain to a crazy level. So we'll see about that. But as for Maki, I'm a bit curious what happened to her. Again, it does seem like she's not dead. It seems like she's alive, but after that black flash, we don't see her anywhere. We don't even see her body. I mean, it seemed like she actually got sent flying, even though we don't actually see her fly. It's just that her body is nowhere near Sukuna when we see him after he hit the black flash. She must have got sent packing after that black flash from Ryoma and Sukuna, and it's not really an anti-feat for Maki to get destroyed this badly during this fight, even though basically she just had one real chapter to fight Sukuna other than the last one when she just came in. So I guess all in all, it's basically a chapter and a half, but again, even someone as strong as Kashimo, though granted, Kashimo is fighting a Sukuna who was a lot less nerfed than this Sukuna, because the Sukuna that Kashimo fought didn't have his output nerfed that much by Yuji, he didn't have all those fatal wounds, he didn't have all that soul damage, and of course, he didn't have his heart pierced. So yes, the Sukuna that Kashimo fought was nerfed, but nowhere near as much as the one that's actually fighting Maki. The one that's fighting Maki is nerfed to high heaven, but it doesn't even matter because Sukuna is that powerful that he can make characters like Maki and Curse Technique Kashimo just look like fodder, to the point that you're actually getting a lot of fans question, oh, was Maki even that strong? Was Kashimo that strong? And you know, you're seeing all the farmer jokes being made about Kashimo, but at the end of the day, these characters truly are remarkable. They truly are monstrous. It's just that Sukuna is that much stronger. He is that much of a beast, and it was even said that Gojo alone could have ended the culling game pretty much instantly had he not been sealed, which was the whole point of sealing him and then starting the culling games. And of course, Sukuna is someone who's stronger than Gojo, so I even saw back in the past you had a bunch of elite Heian sorcerers that I have actually broken down in a thread on Twitter before, you know, going in depth on who each of these people that Sukuna fought in the past were. But Sukuna was jumped by presumably far stronger sorcerers than the one now, and clearly many more elite sorcerers back in the Heian era, and he actually survived that jumping because he's the strongest. So it's not that surprising that the young kids right now can't do it, but I do believe that they can. They just need to regroup and go for a round 2 after Sukuna wins this first round. But if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this, because I do reviews for every JJK chapter, and like I said in the beginning, less than 10% of people who actually watch my videos are subscribed. So if you love JJK, I promise you, you won't regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to all the channel members as well. It is always much appreciated. Thank you guys very much, but that's all from me. Have a great day and take care, everyone.